Kevin Durant is trending again. And it's never for the right reasons, isn't it? Never for the right ones. So, this is from NBA Central. Kevin Durant is confused why he's not in the GOAT conversation. Because I went to the Warriors? Why should I be in that? That's the question you should ask. Why not? What haven't I done? Scorching take from Kevin Durant, saying he believes he should be in the greatest of all time conversation. But you know who is the greatest of all time? Me, on PrizePicks, a sponsor of this video. I'm a nasty guy, man. Listen, PrizePicks is my favorite way to play daily fantasy sports, and in my opinion, it should be yours as well. All you got to do is make an account on their app or on their website, and pick your favorite sport, pick your favorite stats. They got a bunch of players on the screen. If you think they're going to get more than what's listed, click more. If you think they're going to get less, click less. And if you pick right because you know ball for real, you will win some money. So for today, we actually have a lot of games, and I see my Celtics playing Dallas tonight. Porzingis is out from my knowledge, so someone has to step up. In my opinion, it's going to be Derek White, all-star Derek White. So I'll pick the more on his points right there. The Kings are facing the Hawks tonight, and truth be told, I just do not trust that Hawks defense. So personally, I have De'Aaron Fox getting more than 27.5 points. I see a 30 bomb from De'Aaron. And then I'm going to put 5 on it and keep it pushing. And thanks to our friends over at PrizePicks, if you guys use code SLZ, they will match up to $100 on your first deposit. So if you put in 100, they'll give you 100. Now you got $200 to work with. If you put in 10, they'll give you 10. Now you got 20. So it just depends on how much you want to put in. But if you want to try out the app, go ahead and check out the links in the description. And once again, shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Let's see if we can find a video to it and find a little bit more context to it, because you know we like to have as much context as possible. What haven't I done? Should Kevin Durant be in the GOAT conversation? The superstar has won nearly every major NBA individual award, championship, Olympic golds, and is arguably the purest scorer ever. But all of that still hasn't put him in the greatest of all time debate. This is from Dwayne Rankin. Is that how you say his name? Dwayne Rankin from the Arizona Republic. Let's zoom in a little bit. Michael Jordan struggled a decade ago to answer the hottest NBA question at the time: Kobe Bryant or LeBron James? After a pause or two, Jordan blurted out Kevin Durant and chuckled a little bit. This was before Durant won an NBA MVP or championship, but after Jordan picked Bryant because he had 5-1, he had a 5-1 lead in titles over LeBron at the time. Ahmad Rashad asked him about Kevin Durant. He's coming. Pause. You talk about these two and you battling who's the best, and Kevin Durant is going to sneak through the back door. Durant has since won a regular season MVP, 2 NBA championships, 2 finals MVPs, 2 more Olympic gold medals to give him 3, and was named to the NBA 75th anniversary team. Arguably the game's purest scorer, ever being he's essentially a 7-footer who can score on all 3 levels and play above the rim. Durant is 10th on the NBA all-time scoring list, having played in fewer games than the 9 players ahead of him. He's on pace to pass Carmelo and Shaq this season. Durant is only 723 points behind O'Neal for 8th and trails Anthony by 416 points, but has played in 187 fewer games than O'Neal and 240 fewer than Anthony. Okay, averaging 28.9 points in the 17th season, Durant would pass O'Neal, Anthony in 26 games. Durant also scored more points than anyone to suit up for Team USA. What haven't I done? However, James now has 4 NBA titles, is the league's all-time leading scorer, and put himself in a position to where he and Jordan are the only 2 really in the GOAT conversation. Some have asked, when did James surpass Bryant? Let's skip over a little bit. Shaq. This is about Shaq. Guess who's never really been in it, even though Jordan, the one who is widely viewed as the greatest of all time, said he was on his way before major awards and championships. Durant, why? Because I went to the Warriors, Durant said in an exclusive interview with the Republic last week. Why shouldn't I be in that? That's the question you should ask. Why not? What haven't I done? And I guess this is going through him, leaving for Golden State, winning in 2017, winning in 2018. Damn, they're just going through KD's fucking career. They are just going through KD's career right now. Okay. I guess this is the last relevant paragraph. Can leading the Suns to a championship change the Durant narrative? The Suns were 30-27 and far from a championship contender before the blockbuster trade. Durant is in the second of a 4-year, $194 million contract. Not sure how long Durant can continue to play at this level, but he's still one of the game's best players. Say the Suns win their first championship with him and tack on another one in these 3 seasons with Durant being the first or second best player and prevent James and Curry from adding to their totals. At 40 years old and when Curry's old himself, what are we doing? Jordan 6, Bryant 5, James, Curry 4, and Durant with 3 or 4. Will that finally put Durant in the GOAT conversation, or will the move to Golden State remain the driving force to keep him out of it? Or should he already be in it anyway? Now let that debate begin. I rate my reading skills a 7 out of 10 on that one. Stuttered a little bit, but it is what it is. I am still also sick, so I apologize on that front. But I mean, there's much being made off of just essentially one sentence here, but let's make much out of one sentence here. Kevin Durant believes he's in the GOAT conversation. What do I believe? I believe we gotta the theme for 2024 for me so far has been we gotta define what being in a conversation is. I don't know how many times we need to do this. It has happened so many times throughout this season specifically, but we always want to throw people in certain conversations that I truly don't know if they deserve to be in. And that's no diss at them, but we just need to clarify what being in the conversation means, right? Is you being a top 10 player of all time automatically guarantee you in the GOAT conversation? That's what we need to answer. I personally don't think so, but that's what we need to answer, right? Let's take it even a step further. Is you being a top 5 NBA player of all time put you in that conversation? I still don't think so. We had this conversation about Kobe Bryant a couple weeks ago. We had this conversation about Steph Curry a couple weeks ago. We had this conversation about Jalen Brunson. Certain players are fantastic. They're great. We could just leave it at that. But the conversation gets really tricky and really nasty when some people try to put these players in conversations that a vast majority of people don't believe they really should be in, right? And from that side of things, when we're trying to counter push and now we're trying to, pick your brain apart and your argument apart as to why you believe this player should be in that category, now we're looked at as the bad people, right? And I think for this conversation specifically, it is the same exact thing, right? Kevin Durant is a fantastic player, an all-time great player. I have him as a top 15 player of all time. Honestly, right outside the top 10. He is a fantastic player. He has accomplished a lot. He has damn near accomplished everything there is to do in the NBA. But when it comes to the greatest player of all time, you need to have an argument for being the greatest player of all time. For me, for those asking what being in the conversation means to BSOLZ, you have to have a concrete argument as to why you should be the greatest of all time. If you do not have that, you're not in the conversation, right? As close as you are to that conversation, if you do not have a case for you, you are not in that conversation. Sorry. So let me just say it real quick. I think for Michael Jordan, for me, the closest thing to a flawless career we've seen from a basketball player. That is his argument for me. Talk about 6 rings, 6 finals MVPs, no losses in the finals. Was great out the gate. 29 point per game score out the gate, right? Finn had really good longevity in his career. Played 14, 15 seasons, however many it is. I understand that's not LeBron level anymore, but that's still really good longevity. Played really good as a 38, 39-year-old too on the Wizards. Had the pizzazz, had the flash, had the off-court notoriety. We all know about Jordan Brand. had the charisma. On the court, won MVPs, 5 of them, won DPOIs, right? Was a floor raiser, was a ceiling raiser, could play off ball, could play on ball, you know? I don't want to say 3-level scorer, but, you know, very versatile offensively, mid-range, post work, driving to the rim, take you off the dribble, going left, going right. You know? Can shoot free throws. Great defensively. Can be a point of attack defender. Can play the passing lanes. Is one of the best shot blockers from the guard position. Not too many weaknesses in his career. Right? And he also wasn't a team hopper. Right? Played with one team a vast majority of his career. Came back from retirement the second time and you know, played for the Wizards. But you wouldn't view Michael Jordan as a team hopper. And again, if he never went back to the Wizards, he only played for one team. So you have all of these things going for Michael Jordan as to why, in my opinion, closest thing to a perfect career. Closest thing to a flawless career. LeBron James, his argument to me is maintaining the greatest peak for the longest amount of time. LeBron James has been 27-7 since his second year in the league. And has been that for the next 20 years, like for the next 2 decades. Like that shit is unheard of. That shit is insane. And he still looks like he can legitimately do it for 3-4 more years if he wanted to. Like legitimately. You know, in terms of peak as well, has some of the best peaks in history. If we talk about his skill set, you can argue he's the most complete player of all time. You know what I'm saying? The most versatile player of all time. That is LeBron James's case for me. I think another person that's in the conversation is Kareem. I think this is where the arguments get kind of weak because of the other context that you need to add to it. But I've asked this question on stream. The answer for Kareem is longevity relative to era. On top of his peak being one of the best, right? So, you know, the longevity that Kareem had, especially for that era, with the lack of advancements that he had compared to the players nowadays, him playing as long as he did was honestly insane. And as well, his peaks are up there with the best of them. So I do think to be in the greatest of all time conversation, your peak has to be up there, right? If your peak isn't up there, you're not in the conversation for real. But to be in there even more, you have to do things for a long period of time. And now we got to look at your whole body of work for you to be in that conversation. The other player that might be in that argument, that GOAT discussion, again, as weak as it sounds, would be Bill Russell, right? Would be Bill Russell. 11 rings, greatest, you know what I'm saying? Greatest winner of all time. Weak as fuck again. But that, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, these are just superlatives that you cannot take away from someone that transcends just like one aspect of the game. Does that make sense? I understand winning is one aspect of the game, but winning is a really, really big part of the game. And now I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, but with Kevin Durant, I guess the only case that he has is being the greatest scorer of all time. And I know some people are going to be in chat saying, hey, the game is just about a bucket. Number one, I don't think it is just about a bucket. And number two, for Kevin Durant, that case is still kind of being the greatest scorer of all time is kind of And also, going back to the Bill Russell thing, I truly don't think in realistically speaking, I don't think Bill Russell is in that conversation, especially with how advanced we are in the conversation nowadays. Kareem is barely in that conversation. So now when we go back to Kevin Durant, right? What is it about Kevin Durant as a basketball player? What is it about Kevin Durant's resume that would make me think, yo, this guy right here has a case over LeBron, has a case over Jordan? Couple things I would think of. The head-to-head, right? The head-to-head. Kevin Durant did face LeBron James twice, 3 times in the NBA Finals and got the best of him in 2 of them. Now, if you know the context as to why, that's where that argument gets weak. But hey, I've always said, yo, if Kobe faced LeBron in 2009 and Kobe beat LeBron, conversations might be different, right? I'm just saying. Prime, end of prime Kobe versus LeBron entering his prime. They go up head to head in the finals and Kobe got the best of them. Conversations might be different, right? So KD, he did do that 2 out of 3 times. And I do think it shifted the conversation to a certain degree. I think it's stamped, to me, Golden State stamped KD as a top 15 player of all time. That era. He did get it done at the end of the day. There was some credit to be given, but just not enough to get you to that GOAT status, to be honest with you. Aside from that, pure score, again, you would really have to really dig into the scoring argument. Longevity might be one as well for Kevin Durant, but unless you're going to sit up here and tell me, while yes, KD has great longevity, it's still not going to be better than LeBron's longevity or Kareem's longevity, then again, that's not an argument for Kevin Durant. Great longevity, but if you're not the greatest at this one thing, then you don't have that argument. I'm sorry to tell you. Maybe that's confusing people when I say that, but hopefully that makes sense when I say that. But to defend Kevin Durant, I think he is in full right to believe the way he thinks. I do not think there is a problem with Kevin Durant blurting this out at all. I do not think Kevin Durant, I think Kevin Durant is just to think this way. Why? As crazy as it sounds, you will be surprised how many NBA players really don't know about NBA history for real, because of the fact that they spend a majority of their lives playing the sport instead of being like us, where we're, sitting at home watching them play and have more time to analyze the game more objectively, have these debates, have these discussions. KD don't have time for these discussions. KD has practice tomorrow, right? KD has a workout tomorrow. KD has a game tonight. He got to go up against LeBron like tonight. You know what I'm saying? And he's been doing this for a majority of his life. So KD doesn't have the time to really dive into the analytics as to who is objectively the top 5 players of all time, top 10, top 20 players of all time. He just doesn't have that luxury, which is fine because it got him to where he is. Like if y'all have heard the way SGA talks about basketball, you would legitimately say he doesn't know anything about basketball. Like it's crazy. It's crazy, but it is what it is. And also, I've said this about numerous all-time greats. You don't get to be as great as a Kevin Durant, regardless of what you think about him. You don't get to be as great as a Kevin Durant if you don't have some sort of delusional confidence in yourself. You don't get to be as great as a LeBron James, as great as a Michael Jordan, as great as a Kobe Bryant, as great as a Bill Russell, hell, as great as a Paul Pierce, if you don't believe that when you walk into a room, when you jump that ball up and you roll that ball out on the hardwood, that you are not the best player on that court, regardless of who is on that court. Does that make sense? You don't become Kevin Durant if you don't believe in yourself to a delusional level. And I do think Kevin Durant believing he's in the GOAT conversation is that delusion coming out from an objective lens, but I do not have a problem with it because you don't become Kevin Durant without that mentality. You don't become one of the best pure scorers of all time without that mentality. You don't become the Warriors and that whole, even that argument against them wouldn't become that argument if Kevin Durant wasn't viewed as a threat to a certain degree. Michael Jordan doesn't say what he does without Kevin Durant thinking that he can be in that conversation at some point in time.